Ever feel like you're doing this teaching thing alone? You don't have to be. Shared teaching is all about sharing the workload through the power of collaboration and teamwork. Together, we'll walk through all the difficult parts of teaching and learn how to streamline our processes, fine-tune our time management, and develop a more manageable workload. If that sounds like a dream come true to you, then welcome to the Shared Teaching Podcast. Let's share in the teaching to make those dreams a reality. Now here's today's Shared Teaching. Hello and welcome back to the second in a Saturday series called Saturday Snapshots, where I go a little bit more in depth on a point I talked about in the previous episode. So if you missed episode 79, it was why sight words are important. And I talked a little bit in the introduction about thinking about would my current things in my classroom, my centers in particular, still work with the science of reading principles? And the answer is, of course they can. Now, some things don't even need any changes. They're fine just the way they are. So if you have any word scrambles or just practice writing the word, those are all fine. But you can make just a couple of small changes to have things even more aligned. And I'm going to show you what to do in today's quick episode. First thing you want to do is you want to sort your WordWork centers phonetically. So the way to make these more science of readings friendly is to look at the phonics patterns, because science of reading asks students to pay attention to those patterns. So putting them into the patterns already will help them align a little bit better than they are now. So for example, if you have to and she in a WordWork center together, you might want to look for things like that and there, because they'll both have a TH sound, and maybe you want to put those together in a WordWork center rather than just have several seemingly random words together. Maybe you have he and she because they both end in an E. You could put those in a WordWork together. So think about how you want to group them by patterns, and having them grouped this way is going to make it easier for students to focus on just one pattern during their independent practice. I suggest sorting your words into those that are completely decodable and those that may have parts that are not decodable. So words that are completely decodable is words like and, from, that. Words that are not decodable or have not as many decodable parts would be words like was, the, is. Okay, next thing you want to do, or another thing you want to do, is to map it out. Now, can some of your sight word centers that you already have include a component that maps out the sounds? So mapping out sounds looks like boxes, also called Elkanon boxes, and some way to distinguish the sounds, whether it's using maybe like Play-Doh pieces or counters. You can even use mini erasers for this. You're going to simply add a small container that has laminated Elkanon boxes, maybe up to 5, depending on how many sounds the majority of your sight words contain. And then you're going to put some counters with it, whatever your favorites are, and place those alongside your regular WordWork centers. You're going to model for your students how to use those new tools with your students, and you're going to encourage them to try it out before they complete the main activity. So for example, if their main activity is to do a Play-Doh mat, where they're just simply writing out the word and tracing it in Play-Doh, then maybe have them use the Elkanon boxes first to place the sounds from that word on their Play-Doh mat using small balls of Play-Doh. Then they sound it out, they read it, and then they go to the Play-Doh mat and they write it in Play-Doh. That is just another way to kind of boost the phonetic component of learning these words. Okay, last today is student sorting. So we talked about the teacher sorting, but why shouldn't students sort? So I like traditional word studies that are introduced in programs like Words Their Way. So I feel that students should be sorting their words, and I like them to be doing it independently because I want them thinking about what they notice. Sometimes they notice patterns that we don't even know. So it's really cool to see them try to do it themselves first before simply telling them, hey, you're going to take these words, it's SH week, and you're going to sort them all by the sh sound, because then it doesn't really get them noticing different things. And maybe you want to see that they're noticing like the ends or the beginning of patterns, because that might tell you a lot about them as a reader as well. Anyway, so when it comes to sight word centers, they can sort out any variety of that. They can sound beginning sounds, ending sounds, or just the phonic pattern that you have already mentioned for that weekly focus. The important thing is to get your students to recognize what the words have in common, and then maybe provide students with a recording sheet or a word study notebook so that you can add a little bit of accountability into the center. So in reality, many of your current WordWork centers are still in alignment with the science of reading, and they don't need any tweaks. The rest of your activities might just need a small adjustment to better fit with the current best practices. The good news is that you don't need to go all out and find all new centers to prep and laminate this summer. So I hope this episode was very helpful. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you next week with an all new episode on Wednesday. Don't forget to follow and subscribe so you get notifications of whenever a new episode is released. Bye for now. If you've loved this show, then join me in sharing the teaching,
hitting that subscribe button,
and leaving us a review on
iTunes,
so we can be found by more teachers like you who are ready to start sharing the workload. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. Find new episodes each week on sharedteaching.com. Thanks for listening to the Shared Teaching Podcast. Off the top of my head, I'm not thinking. So I suggest shorting